I'm in a room with snakes right now. I got a snake collection. My first job where I got paid was $1 a day. Was working in a pet shop. So I always been around animals, and I loved the Indians more than the Cowboys. Blah blah blah. Got my first bow at 8, but I was down at the lake fishing before I was 8 years old, and I remember looking at the baby ducks and trying to catch them. They'd scurry into the lake. I was like, oh, and I'd stand on the side like, how am I going to get these things? Because I wanted to catch them. I was always sneaking up and catching. I'd stalk up on, when you walk by, you guys fish. If you're walking around the water, you walk softly because they can feel you coming. The tremors in the water, and fish will take off. I was doing that for frogs and toads. Turtles, I could catch a turtle barehanded when I was a little boy, sneaking up and snatching them.
Hello and welcome to episode 51 of the NJ Multi-Species Podcast. I am your host, Joe Santiago. As always, my partner and his bobber mug, Chris Pereira.
I'm here.
There he is. A lot of stuff happened in the last 2 weeks. We were off a week. First of all, right off the bat, the Gambler. I'm wearing my Gambler shirt. We are doing a Gambler sea bass fishing charter.
You got a Gambler shirt?
I got a Gambler shirt from the saltwater show. You weren't there. Chris gave me one.
I was fishing.
Yep, you didn't get a shirt. We are doing a fishing charter, 40 people. It's $90 a person. May 18th. First come, first serve. It is filling up quick, so if you want to get in immediately.
Yeah, how many were already in it? And this is Monday we're recording this.
It's over 20 already.
Oh, geez. All right.
So, yeah, it's running out of room quickly. So, yeah, if you want to come sea bass fishing with us, May 18th on the Gambler, it's going to be fun. We're all going to be there. It should really be pretty hilarious, actually.
I noticed Kevin tried to get out of it. Are we making him come?
We don't know exactly what the deal is with Kevin. Does he get seasick? Does he not like salt water? He doesn't want to go for some reason. We don't know why. And the reason he's giving for not wanting to go is ridiculous. But Max is on him like a dog, so Max is dealing with that.
If it comes down to it, are we physically going to, force him on? Are we going to kidnap him and just bring him?
Well, there's other trips that he has on the books that we could just pull off the table from him. Just take everything from him, just strip him of everything.
If he doesn't come on this trip, is he banned from the fishmonger trip?
It's possible, because Jerry Fosterino would just be disgusted by this act if he knew this was going on. Just he would throw up, and he'd blame us for even interacting with this person. Whatever.
I still blame Kevin for the gnome fiasco.
A lot of things are Kevin's fault. Kevin's coming on, isn't he? You're going on vacation, so he'll be on here to defend himself.
Yeah,
soon.
Next week, Kevin is going to. You're going to have to deal with Kevin being your co-host for that episode.
All right, so you went out. The relentless wind still continues to terrorize. Well, it continued to terrorize everyone mostly. Opening day of trout season came, and on top of the wind, everyone seemed to have to fight the high water. Some people found better water clarity in certain rivers than other ones, and they were able to do have a decent day. But most people struggled. It's just really high water, really off color.
Yeah, I talked to a couple of people, tried to get a feel for everything. It was rough, but I mean, there's always somewhere. That's the nice thing about it. There's always somewhere you could go. You just got to find that water that's cleared up a little bit quicker, that water, that stream that, comes back down to a fishable level much more quicker than the other ones. Stuff like that. I mean, I know you did you fish trout opening day?
I didn't. I crappie fished.
You took one look at the river by you, and you just said, "Hell no."
I didn't even look at it in person. I looked at the gauges. The turbidity just looked horrible. So yeah, I went kayak fishing.
Yeah, I just
And our
opted. I felt like, with the amount of there was going to be with all the people that fish opening day normally, I figured basically that same amount was going to be fishing this opening day, except the difference was there's going to be fewer spots that were going to be fishable. So like that same amount of people was going to be jammed up into less spots, and I just went I went crappie fishing my boat too. Well, tried.
well, yeah, you kind of had to fight worse wind, but you know, we were supposed to go tog fishing Saturday on the Atom Bomb, and
Yeah.
that got canceled. So that threw a screwball in all the plans. Chris went crappie fishing on one lake. I went crappie fishing on a different lake. Had to fight wind. I had to fight wind the past every time I've been fishing, the past 5 times in a row. But
I just remember being out there just taking spray all over me as if I was in the ocean in a storm. And I just said to Matt, I had Max with me, and I just said, Can I fish in a relaxing way? Like, can I get one day where I don't have to suffer quite this much for
no,
something?"
the only day there's not wind is when it's 110 degrees and you're desperate for a breeze. There's no wind at all.
I
There's
don't
nothing.
mind that. I don't care.
There's just
So,
no
the-
air.
I actually uttered the words to Max at one point. I said, Maybe Joe's right. Maybe this isn't fun."
Oh, it's not fun. 9 times out of 10, it's usually not fun.
But
Uh, the
yeah.
weather seems like it's finally starting to stabilize, though. This week, we're starting to see some spring patterns.
Do you
Uh,
do you think do you think like ahead of this solar eclipse that we had again, today is Monday that we're recording this, the solar eclipse thing was today. Do you think that had anything to do with it? Like I don't know. Everything leading up to that, we had multiple earthquakes, like, and the
well, I think
fishing
one's the
just
earthquake and
up.
one's the aftershock, isn't it? That how
There
it works?
there was no, yeah, but there was separate. There was, I think there was two separate earthquakes, or at least one of the aftershocks, if that's what they're calling it, was
I
just
felt
about
both.
as big.
I did feel both.
But it just the point is that I don't know, it had to affect the fish. I mean, the fishing, I did not hear, like, people caught fish. Me and Max caught some fish. We went out again. Katie came with us. It wasn't great either day.
No.
But we caught fish. But it seemed like everyone had the same thing. Like, yeah, I caught some fish, but it wasn't good. And trout fishing, same thing. I don't know. It just seemed like everything coming
It
into
seemed
the.
it seemed like Monday, once the tog boats were able to get out, they did pretty decent today. Seeing a lot of pictures. Mimi, Sea Owl, Ocean Explorer, throwing
And,
up,
and
Gambler.
yeah, and what's weird is I'm seeing on the opposite. I'm seeing a lot of reports where like the stripers are around, but guys are having trouble
Yeah,
getting a
low.
good bite.
Yeah, they're very on and off.
But they're there, and obviously, I mean, any day now, probably by the time between we're recording this now and by the time it gets put up, that bite's gonna blast wide open, and it's just gonna be
See,
striper anarchy.
somebody said, I think it was Tarnowski when we were talking about the perch fishing run. He said, "Oh, everything's 3 weeks ahead this year." I think he's backwards. Everything's 3 weeks behind. Because I see, um, what is that? Anybody know what
It's
that
got to be
is?
coming from Deuce's end. But anyway,
Yeah.
um,
Anyway, Deuce, your kids' video games are playing in my ear, and I can't pay attention to the podcast at all.
Deuce,
But
Joe has enough trouble concentrating in silence. We're gonna need that turned off.
what was I even talking about now? What was I even talking about?
So you completely fucked him over. He's done.
What's
Um,
that?
let me let me jump back. He lost his voice and he's trying to apologize, and he sounds like it. He
Dude,
just
what is
sounds like a
happening?
zombie.
What is going on? He's
And
letting
nobody
everything
else can
fall
hear
apart.
this, so they don't know what the hell we're talking about.
He basically has to press record and then just go away till we're done, and he's fucking that up. I don't understand. What is he doing?
Anyway, so jumping back, because I wasn't really paying attention to what Joe was saying either, so I don't know where
I
he was.
wasn't paying attention at all to what I was
Yeah,
saying
I
because I
know.
have no idea.
So anyway, I just wanted to jump back real quick also before I forgot, because we skipped a week. We didn't do a week last week. We did do some carp fishing. Got some early season carp fishing in. I know Max has been doing it too. Max and his friend Katie Lynn. They said the same thing pretty much. There's some days off, some days on. Me and my Katie went carp fishing as well, and she you saw the catfish she caught. Just a
Mhm.
gigantic channel catfish. I mean, this was one. Usually, I don't care. We split fish, whatever. This fish was one of the times I haven't caught a big catfish like that in probably 15 years.
And Kevin is still looking for where it is.
Yeah, Kevin's still trying to figure out where it is. Meanwhile, I've told every single other person on earth except for him.
And also, I think once Kevin finds out that where that is, he'd find out that was from probably like it doesn't belong there, and it probably like it's the only one in the whole lake.
It's quite possibly the only catfish in that lake, like the only one. And but yeah, it was a giant cat. I mean, it was fat as hell.
It was humongous.
It was 32.5 inches long, and it's up on the leaderboard. That's the leader. That's the fish to beat for Skillful Angler Channel Catfish right now.
Yeah, that was a absolute giant catfish. I'm trying to think what else happened.
There's no way you're remembering back 2 weeks, bud.
No. Oh, Jen Wong. He had pretty much the same thing to say. Up and down fishing. He said the bass fishing's gotten better. They're starting to show up more, but still, one day he has a few, and then the next day he has nothing. But like I said, I think this week is when you're going to start to see a stabilization. The lake temperature should break 50 degrees, I think, by the end of this week. I hope.
Yeah, to me, that's the key, is the consistency. Like when it's like springtime and it's dropping back into like winter weather for a day, then you get a weird weather, and then you get this and that. It just messes everything up, and you don't know really what you're going to get when you go out there. But like I said, and same as Jen Wong, I mean, we picked away at some bass. Max had two nice bass while we were out there, but it's just nothing. There's no consistency. At one point, we're looking for crappie at one point, and we found one decent crappie, and we said, "Oh, we finally found them," and then that was it. Like, where the hell are the other crappie? It's a schooling fish.
Oh, I just remembered what I was talking about. So somebody said that it was Tarnowski's, everything's 3 weeks ahead this year.
All right.
I think everything's 3 weeks behind, because I looked at my notebook like last year on April 6th. I went fishing for stripers and pounded them. Not that many people are even striper fishing yet.
Well, they're there. Like they're there. Guys are catching them here and there, but I've heard a lot of guys say that it's not good. If you see someone post a striper or two and claim that they had a stellar day, it's probably just, exaggerating.
No,
but they're there. They're
even
ready.
Now, if you jump back to freshwater, crappie fishing by this time last year, we were doing better than this, weren't we? And even probably night trolling by this time last year, we were doing better than this.
Oh yeah, yeah.
This year, I think it's off to a slow kick. Everything is off.
I think it's all ready to go. I think they're just confused. I don't think it's not that it's behind. It's just like it's confused. They don't know what the hell to do.
But you think they're there?
Yeah, I think it's ready to pop off. Like this week, like you said, the weather looks more consistent. By the time this episode's out, the weather would have been stabilized and have like
Oh,
seasonal
God.
spring weather, and
If
it
the wind
should.
goes away too.
Well, that we'll see, I guess.
As usual, always, before I also forget, episode brought to you by NJFishing.com. 27 years as the leading #1 source of fishing in New Jersey. NJFishing.com. 100% completely free to sign up and register. Gives you access to all the message boards and forums. Chris, anything to add,
Yeah,
MJF?
we're now NJF. I mean, I've said it plenty of times. I've been using it uh, almost from the start, and it's 100% the way I've built my like friend network in the angling world. Um, and I've told Jerry multiple times that, I mean, I've thanked him. I've said, thank you for having this. I mean, this is the key to fishing for me in New Jersey. I mean, it's an information hub, yeah, but it's also just this network and this community, and it's kind of what we've tried to elaborate on and put more branches on by doing this.
Yeah, pretty much, exactly. Yeah, that's a perfect way to sum it up. And while we're talking about the nice weather, if you do, as the weather does stabilize, and now Chris is right, the fishing is going to pick up. If you do want to get out on Lake Pacon and get on some big fish, some stripers, some walleye, at Mackin's ripping lips fishing trips, call Eddie immediately. You do have to remember, although we all know how much Eddie does know about Lake Pacon, he doesn't do that full time. He has a regular 40-hour job like us. So he tries to fit as many trips in as he can, as he can in his spare time, but he is limited. So if you want to get a chance to fish Lake Pacon with Eddie Mack, and I just can't emphasize, book it with him as early as possible.
Yeah, I mean, don't wait. Basically, you want to call him, talk to him, tell him what you want. I mean, this guy, I've never seen anyone be so accommodating to the customers. This is not like this is for those of you who have gone on like saltwater charters where these popular guys book up for the season and you call and they're like, "Well, I've got these 2 dates left, take them or leave them." It's not like that. You call Eddie, you tell him what you want, and he'll talk to you about it. Oh, okay, I hear that. Like, just so you know, like this option may be a little bit more action packed if you wait, but if you want to wait till the next month and you'll have a better chance at whatever species, like he'll talk you through it and you can tell him exactly what you want. And he's going to work with you and, he's going to schedule you in. But it's not one of these things where you can't wait till the last second. He's going to book up his weekends and, with whoever, it's a first come, first serve. Give
And
him a
kids
call.
too. My kids have fished on his boat multiple times. My daughter actually won the Lake Pacon panfish tournament off his boat. So it is very child friendly too, to bring your kids with Eddie.
Yeah, we get messages back to us also telling us, oh, Eddie was great with my kids. I'm booking another trip. I mean, check
All right, we
it out.
can't
There's
spend,
nothing.
we can't talk about Eddie the whole time. That's enough, Eddie. Hey, that's it.
That's all you get.
You want to go fishing? Call Eddie. That's it. That's the end of it.
Are we
Put
ready
his
for our guest?
Pop his number up on the screen so you could call and book him. Our guest tonight is Ed. We think it's Ed Eloe.
Yeah, I don't want to mispronounce his name.
We're not sure if that's how you say it. We'll find out. We're gonna, even when we find out the right way, we'll say it wrong on purpose anyway.
You do it to even people you just met?
No, I only do it on this. I don't really do it in real life unless it's hilarious. But like Max Kellerman, that's the best.
I still don't know his real name.
No one cares. No one wants to know his name. But Anyway, so we got invited this year. They finally they have always had the what's it called?
Deer Classic.
It's the Deer Classic. The Federation, the New Jersey Federation throws it. NJ Fish and Wildlife's involved. It's basically an awards dinner ceremony for the biggest deer shot of all different types of weapons and age groups. And finally, this year there was last year, 2023, there was enough entries into the Skillful Angler program that they finally decided to include fishermen into this dinner. So they pretty much off the top of their head, I don't know how they're going to do it going forward, but they just invited the 4 people with the most skillful angler entries.
Well, no, they invited the 4 of us that all completed the master and elite angler.
No, that's not true, because the only people that did that was me and you.
No. Or maybe it was just one or the other.
I was told it was the top 4 people with the most submissions.
It might have been a combination. I'm not sure that they...
All right, whatever it was. We got invited to the dinner. We'll just go to that. Me and Chris got invited to the dinner. Katie got invited to the dinner. I had to pay for a ticket for my wife to go because she didn't get invited to the dinner.
You didn't take her out and catch her enough fish.
She was taking care of the children so I could catch the fish. So the state should understand that shit when they make me pay for it. But anyway, the dinner was fun. We had a good time. And we ended up when we walked in, there was nowhere to sit. We didn't know where to sit. There was one table that just had 4 chairs there. And we ended up sitting there with these random people we didn't know. And we ended up talking to them all night. They turned out to be really interesting characters. They've invented stuff. They have state records in New Jersey with shooting deer. The one young kid was there to get an award. He shot an amazing deer. There it was the other guy's son. I don't remember the other guy's name. Do you, Chris? The one who made the knives.
The father of the son that won the award.
The son's name was Cody, right?
I'm not 100% sure on that. The father's name was Rick.
Rick, yeah. Rick is an interesting character. So these guys were cool. We ended up talking to them all night. We said, yeah, we have to have them on the podcast, these guys. So Ed is here tonight. Are we ready? Do we have Ed?
He's working through some technical difficulties, but he will be on in a moment.
All right, that's fine, because I need a break anyway.
So you might as well cut it for a second.
Yeah, just cut it. If you... Okay, so we have our next guest. Our guest here is Ed Eloe. He's been a New Jersey native all his life, outdoorsman, avid hunter, and fisherman. He's been hunting 42 years in the state of New Jersey. He holds the non-typical muzzleloader record for New Jersey, I think, if I got that right. So here is Ed Eloe. Ed, welcome to the NJ Multi-Species Podcast.
Hey, how you guys doing?
How are you?
What's up, man?
Good.
Yeah, it was we kind of talked about it before you jumped in here. It was pretty cool to meet you and just sit at the table by chance with you with you and Rick and Rick's son at the Deer Classic.
Yeah, that was wild. It's a great time. Congrats to you guys for your awards on the fishing. I had no clue what was going to evolve out of this get together, this meeting.
Yeah, I think they kind of just threw fishing in there at the last second. I think they're finally like, holy crap, we got a lot of big fish submissions this year. Maybe we should kind of add them in. And then they just they told us we were getting plaques, and then they just kind of stuck the paper plaque in a nice fancy frame. We thought we were getting like nice engraved plaques like the hunters get.
Yeah, the hunters
get
better.
Yeah.
Now, what were you at the dinner for this year?
My friend Rick, he took his son Wyatt out hunting. He's a long history of helping kids hunt, my son included way back. But his son Wyatt had gotten the largest, I believe it was typical in the youth category this year. And there was a recognition for it, as you saw. And he said he'd like to have me there with him, since Rick and I have been friends since high school. And I said, yeah, I'd be honored. It'd be a privilege to go with you guys, Yeah. So we went, and Darren Dorian was there too, and getting an award for, doing seminars, for the dog tracking and stuff. And Darren and Rick are really good friends, and I'm friends with Darren as well. Rick, every deer Rick's shot with his son had shot, actually, he's had Darren come out and help retrieve it. And previous to his son hunting, I think Darren helped Rick retrieve a buck he had shot. So there's a great connection there.
Yeah, you guys seem to have like a nice like hunting network going down there. You guys hunt the not South Jersey, but
Central, if you will. Yeah, Monmouth and Ocean County.
Yeah, you guys. We've always talked about, like, in the fishing world, we try to build a network of friends, and it's like it's one of the most important things. For not just for information, but for, like, you need help with something or anything like that. And it might be even more important in the hunting world. You shoot a big buck. I mean, you ever had to drag like a really big buck out of the woods by yourself? I mean, I haven't. So I don't know.
Every buck I shot, I dragged out by myself. Every bear I shot, including that 400-pounder. Rick did help me with the 400-pounder though. I dragged it through a beaver pond, and probably about another 20 yards. And Rick came and helped me with that. That's a whole nother story to bear hunts, But actually, all the deer I've dragged out by myself. The bear is a whole nother story, Bear hunting is a whole nother story.
Now, let me ask you, what year did you set the muzzleloader record that you have in?
That is 2000, so it's actually 24 years ago.
And you
November
broke
27th.
that. Were you on the ground or in a tree stand?
I was in a tree stand. That was a pretty cool story. I'm been a single father, since my children were born, and I was living with a woman, and I was able to start hunting a little bit more. And that buck was taken on state land, as well as these two bear. And the other two bear I'd shot this year were all state land. And I was on a tear that year. I was able to get out, and I was sticking a lot of deer in New Jersey with the arrow. And I shot one deer, and I had to track it. And I wound up tracking on state land, probably about 100 yards or so. And it took me into a spot where I saw a lot of buck sign. And I was like, wow, you know what? I'm going to hunt out here with a bow, and I'm going to go. Well, I hunted with a bow, but then what happened was the deer were coming in just before I could see, just before shooting light. I hear them walking back in, because I was between the feeding and bedding area, and I couldn't see them, but I could hear them. And I'd see a couple little ones straggle in. So like a week later was muzzleloader season. So I said, I'm going to go further back. So I went further back, which coincidentally would be closer to the bedding area. And I came out, and I was in a pine area, but I came out into an oaky area with a lot of big oak trees and big pines. And back then I was using tree spikes, which you strap to your legs. There was no climber for me back then. And I was using a lock-on tree stand with a wooden platform that was really dangerous when it snowed or got icy, because it was just didn't have the metal grating, It was a trip, some of those experiences. But that particular morning, I got out there, and I could see I was running late. I seen people with lights going into tree stands. I was like, I'm running late. So I got into my spot. I climb up, take the tree spikes off. I hang them in the branch next to me, pull the gun up, go to put my gloves on. I drop a glove, it goes right to the ground. I'm like, and that's, you're not getting down,
That's it.
And, so I just sat there. Oh yeah. I'm hunting with one glove. I'm just sitting there, and it was like really calm, no heavy wind, but the wind was in my face. As I lucked out, it was out of the west. And I heard that noise again, deer, that unmistakable sound, and deer walking to my left, where I continuously heard them disappearing every time, but I was further in. Remember, I was in pines. Now I'm in high oaks, pine, open oaks. And I look over, and I see the side of a deer. It could have been any one of these little deer or regular deer. I didn't see what it really was. I only saw a glimpse of its antlers coming. So I stayed calm. I said, just relax, shoot on the exhale, and it came out into an opening, and boom, I let it go, and all the black smoke was there. Ironically, that was the first deer I killed with that gun. And I sent you some pictures of Billy Brown, Scott Borden, and stuff like that. Billy Brown is the one that told me to get that gun. He had told me a story. All my friends are telling me stories of black powder. You'd have a misfire. back in the day because you had a cap and primer and all that. It was different. This gun I shot, it was the Black Diamond Thompson centerline inline. So you were using a shotgun primer. You dropped the pellets down. So it was more like a single shot rifle, honestly, more weatherproof. But I've had it for 3 years. Pretty crazy too. The first year I hunted with it was the year the tiger was loose in New Jersey. I don't know if you heard about that in Jackson. And I was hunting within a mile of where this tiger, you can find it out. The tiger was loose. I got home, I heard there was a tiger loose right within a mile of where I was hunting. That was another story. Hand to God. That was another story. That was probably.
What year was that?
I think it was 98 or 99. We can look it up. Tiger.
Yeah, I can look it up. I remember hearing. I feel like I heard about that. It was from the Great Adventure.
It was right near there.
Thing.
They say it was from this other woman, Joan, by whoever, the tiger lady, but they couldn't link it to anybody. So it could have been even a drop off from some crazy guy in Philly, But anyway,
let's back up for 1 second to the part where you said stay calm.
Oh,
wait, I want to back up to the part where if you see the tiger, are you allowed to hunt it because it's invasive now?
No, I thought of like, what do I do if I see it? Do I kill it? Like the next time, I was like, what would have happened if number one, I got out of the tree stand and I got mauled, I'd be done. Or number two, if I actually saw it, would I shoot it to kill it and get out of there?
I mean, you could be saving someone's life by killing the tiger at that point. I don't see why.
I would imagine. I don't know, man. That's a question for Fish and Game I'd not want to ask. You know what I'm saying?
It's what they say. It's easier to ask forgiveness than permission.
No, yeah. I would definitely
Chris knows mostly. I mean, because me and Chris hunt from a double man tree stand a lot. When a deer comes in, especially with me, I get buck fever horrible. Like,
oh yeah, when he didn't even have. Like I was using his crossbow the second time we went.
I think I just watched one of those videos. I just watched the video, and that's when you both doubled down. Was that your first? That was your first hunt?
No, that was the most recent one. That was the most recent one. This was the first. This was going to be the first. I only started hunting with the apprentice license last year. This is my second year only, and the very first doe that I was going to shoot, the very first deer I was ever going to shoot, it came in and Joe was hyperventilating for me. I felt like, yeah, dude, the whole tree stand was shaking. I'm like, is that you? We're like whispering to each other. He's like, you got to remain calm. I'm like, I'm feeling pretty calm, but I feel
you're making me nervous.
Do you get buck fever, Ed?
I've had it in the past, but I don't really get it much anymore. I get excited,
When this one came in, it sounded like you did. I know we kind of cut off your story and you could get back to it, but it kind of sounded like, did you not actually see how big of a rack it had?
I absolutely did not. I did not see that. I just saw the sign, and I was like, ooh, there's a buck. And when I put the gun up on it, was open sights, the little Trugo, no scope. It was about 35 to 40 yards away. And I just put the scope on it. It kept coming through. I was young enough where it was early enough in my hunting career where I didn't realize you can go and stop them. So I followed through, and I was like, just shoot on the exhale. When you shoot a gun, you want to exhale and put. Same thing with using a crossbow. Shoot on the exhale. You're not going to shake. And I hit it. Next thing I know, there was all this black powder smoke in front of me. It wasn't going anywhere. There's no wind. So I actually looked around it, and I saw it. And I saw a doe looking all scared, and I saw this deer laying there like this. I could just see this giant rack. So I pulled up my haul line, tied my gun to it, lowered the gun, had to grab those bootstraps, those tree climbing spikes, and I put them on. And I get down, I drop everything down. I left my stand up there actually, and I dropped everything down, my backpack, my fanny pack, whatever. And I get down there, and I'm walking over there towards it. I remember walking, trying to untie my gun, and it's like, and I never finished untying it. It was still tied up to the tree. So like, bang, and I get over there. I'm like, oh my God. And I counted like 10 or 11 points on one side. I'm like, this thing's got to be a 20-pointer. And I was like, oh my God, let me get it out of here. So I just filled out my tag. I got it. I mean, that was number 9 of the year that season. You know what I'm saying? I was on a tear. I'm honestly, people like or don't like it, but the reality of it is I've shot 20 plus deer a year since that year here in the state of New Jersey. I don't know what the numbers are, but I've killed a lot of deer. And I feed a lot of the non-hunting public. I do feed a lot of people. I've had some older guys that hunted that didn't get a chance to get deer. I get them deer. I have people that I hunt on their property. I give deer. I have people that have their dogs that let me hunt on their property. I'll quarter a deer up, give it to them. They grind it, feed it to their dog. So anyway, I wasn't. My excitement really got there when I was after the deer was down. I got down like it was a regular deer, but when I counted, I said, "Oh my God!" So then I dragged it. I walked like I wasn't really dragging anything. I was kind of in shape back then. You know what I'm saying? And I just kind of walked out there, picked it up. I threw it in the back of the Ford Explorer, drove home, showed my kids. I go and I show a boss of mine who's over in the West Long Branch shop. I opened it up. Like, oh my God. He goes, that thing's got to be a record. I said, what do you mean a record? He goes, that's like got to be like a #1 buck. That thing's got to score. I mean, what do you mean score? I was like, it was a 25 pointer, but officially 23. I'm just thinking it's a big buck. I'm going to get it mounted. This is a beautiful deer. I had no clue they scored them by inches. I had no clue that there was categories and there were state records. I didn't know that. And I think it's great. I don't thrive on that. It's not a thing of mine. I still am a deer hunter. Always was, always will be, for the meat and just the experience. You know what I mean? So I called my taxidermist, Carl from All Game. I was going to bring him anyway because he did a deer for me before. And he's like, it's a what? It says like a 25 point, pretty big deer. Let's get over here immediately. So I bring it because the weather was kind of warm. So I bring it over, he's like, wow. Next thing I know, I'm getting a phone call from Mid-Atlantic Game and Fish, and they want to do an article. And I get told I got to get it scored. So I bring it to get it scored, but it's got Rick Newman way up north. And long story short, it's a state record. Then I started finding more information out about how they rank them, how they do it, and how it's be tried out, whatever. You know what I mean? So it just went on.
There's two different. There's the Boone and Crockett scale, and then there's the other scale, right?
There's a Pope and Young. Pope and Young. Yeah, it might. You know what? It could be. It didn't make the Boone and Crockett books because for a gun, it's got to be over. Non-typical, it's got to be over 190 inches or something like that, and it's 188. But it's scored by the Boone and Crockett scoring method and Pope and Young method. Pope and Young is all archery, like. Anything that gets shot, archery goes through Pope and Young in their books. Boone and Crockett is a gun. So,
you use either one or the other depending what you.
They score it in that category, but the scoring's still the same. You know what I mean? The way they measure them, I believe. Okay. I could be corrected by a professional out there, but I believe the scoring method is still the same, but the category is different, and the requirements like. For bow, for Pope and Young, it's got to be 125 inches to make Pope and Young.
Now, what qualifies a deer as a non-typical buck? What does it have to have?
So basically, you have your typical main frames, 3 on each side, 6-pointer, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, and have to be symmetrical. But if you have extra kickers that go off, or if the main beam that comes out, it's the main beam, then you got the brow tines, which are G1, G2, G3, G4, if it's an 8-pointer. If there's a point that comes out irregularly off of one of the points, it can become a non-typical. But they give you the opportunity to score it as a typical or a non-typical. If you score it as a non-typical, it doesn't get the real penalties on the inches. It becomes all one. But if you score it as a typical, any one of those non-typical points, if it's 3 inches and 3 inches, total of 6 inches gets deducted.
Yeah, you lose points because it's not symmetrical.
Well, you lose inches, which are, because that's how they count them, by inches.
They measure it.
Is one more desirable than the other, like atypical versus typical? I mean, that's blonde, brunette, redhead. That's all preference. You know what I'm saying?
Well, I would say non-typicals are more of a rarity. No,
that's what I was going to ask. Is it more? Is it more common that a deer has symmetrical antlers?
Well, we're talking like some of these they're coming down, they're going out sideways.
They call those kickers out sideways. You got drop tines, you got split tines.
Yours had what did it have on it?
Mine was a mainframe 10. So the mainframe was 5 and 5 and had little kickers coming off. No drop tines. But mine was extremely symmetrical. There was only 3 inches of deduction. Like the main beams are the same size. All the tines, the 5 tines on each side were the side. The brow tines are like the size. There was just a couple little, just a very 3 inches of deductions off of that, but it was extremely symmetrical. Some will be like really crazy on one side and short on the other. But I mean, there's a lot of beautiful bucks in mine has a double white breast. There's a, up there, you can see, where am I at? Over there. They're a little white breast. Mine has a double white patch, throat patch. They call them a throat patch. So there's a little uniqueness to them. Everyone is, I mean, these are all typical in here. These are a lot of Euro mounts, and there's a 130 here and a 120 here or something like that. But I have that 14 pointer I sent you a picture of. It scores 145 gross. He's a 14 pointer. It's a 10. It's almost the same size, you know, width-wise and symmetrical as my 23 pointer. That's why they're both on either side of my picture window on a plaque, just looking left and looking right. But it's a 10 pointer with you know, 2 kickers on one side and 2 on the other. But the kickers are like the size of your finger, so it makes it a 14.
I mean, I can't like the couple of how many times have we hunted, Joe? Not even a dozen yet.
Probably maybe about a dozen.
Somewhere around there. That's all we've done. 2 seasons. You know, we're usually fishing, but I can't imagine. We haven't seen. What's the biggest buck we've seen? The one you shot, the 4-pointer, right? That's the biggest one.
Camera or in person?
No, I'm talking about in person.
Yeah, the 4-pointer.
Like, while we're hunting, the biggest one we've seen, it was a 4-pointer that Joe shot, and then the only other one we've seen, I think, was the little 2-point. I mean, it wasn't little; it was a nice deer, 2-pointer, and they were broken off. They looked like they were broken off. So who knows? Mm-hmm. But I can't imagine seeing one of these 20-something pointers. Oh my God, I can't.
Honestly, I mean, things have really changed since I was starting to hunt when I was a kid, up until the time I took that record buck, and from there until now. I mean, it's gotten really crazy. That was what I was using. No cameras. That was on state land. There was no bait. I started hunting before baiting and before cameras. And I can still hunt without bait, which I do 50-50 of the time. Other times I'm baiting to draw deer in, get pictures and things like that, and fill freezers. But a lot of the big bucks I get are not on bait. They're based on patterning deer. When, you know, eventually, I mean, I'll be honest with you, when I was a kid, I realized, I think I told you that story, that I always loved the outdoors. You know, I'm in a room with snakes right now. I got a snake collection. My first job where I got paid was $1 a day, was working in a pet shop. So I've always been around animals, and I loved the Indians more than the cowboys, blah, blah, blah. Got my first bow at 8, but I was down at the lake fishing before I was 8 years old. And I remember looking at the baby ducks and trying to catch them. They'd scare you into the lake. I was like, oh. And I'd stand on the side like, how am I going to get these things? Because I wanted to catch them. I was always sneaking up and catching. I'd stalk up on, you know, when you walk by, you guys fish. If you're walking around the water, you walk softly because they can feel you coming. The tremors in the water, and fish will take off. I was doing that for frogs and toads. Turtles, I could catch a turtle barehanded when I was a little boy, sneaking up and snatching them, you know. As soon as I hit the water, I'd grab them. But these ducklings, I realized when I was young, I would walk closer to the water when they were up on the grass feeding, and all of a sudden they go away from the water. I was cutting them off. Then they had to come back to me, and then I was catching them. So at a young age, I mean, I'm walking, stalking. I was walking across town as a 10, 12-year-old with a bow and arrow. We had a lot of woods around here, and a quiver. My friend had a pellet gun. We would walk around. I was stump shooting with just like a regular stump shooting. Honestly, sometimes I'd shoot a squirrel here and there. But I was shooting a bow and stalking and hunting before I was 10 years old. And then I started to legally hunt, I think it was the age of 14. Killed my first deer at the age of 21, you know, because I just evolved, you know what I mean? Reading, I'd always read little Field and Streams and Outdoor Life articles. I was never a big reader, just wasn't in my makeup, you know. Still today, I'm not a great reader, but.
And I was going to ask you about that story because I found it interesting, and I didn't know if it was because I'm brand new to hunting, but Joe found it pretty interesting too. I thought how you stalk the deer sometimes. You don't. It seems like most people you know, use their cameras to find a good spot, set up their tree stand, and that's how they hunt for deer. They go up in the tree stand early or late and hunt from the tree stand. You had this this way that I had never really even heard of. I'm sure Joe had heard of it, obviously. Have you ever done that, Joe? Have you ever like stalked deer?
I've tried, not successfully.
There's
Yeah,
definitely a technique to it. I could sit here and tell you, number one, you got to play the wind. You got to walk face into the wind. You got to learn how to walk where you step. It's getting harder for me now as I'm getting older because my balance is off a little bit. You're stepping on your foot's going this way, that way, this way. You're using only parts of your foot. You're not walking. You know what I'm saying? And you're looking ahead and
can
avoiding.
you just use your regular big clunky hunting boots? You gotta have like a special
You can
soft.
use whatever. You get an advantage if you use some sort of a moccasin or something, but I've never used a moccasin. I don't use my hunting accelerated when I started paying more attention and buying the rubber boots. I never wear leather, and I do a lot of scent control. And I was hanging clothes outside. If I hunt in the pines, I was breaking pine branches and putting them. And again, my finances have gotten much better in my life, so I've gotten better equipment over the years. But when I was doing this, when I shot that deer, I was pulling clothing out of a black plastic bag, and I was breaking pine branches and shoving them in there. So I was hunting in the pines, and I was taking some leaves and putting them in there from the ground. I wasn't
It makes sense. It makes
Now,
sense.
would you say in your 40-year career of hunting, have you shot any big, nice bucks over bait, or the majority of the big, nice ones come not on the bait?
I've shot some overbait. What you typically find, since I don't know when baiting became legal. It wasn't legal when I shot that 23 pointer back 24 years ago. I don't think it was. I wasn't baiting. It wasn't. I don't think it was legal at all. I think it became legal like 15 years ago, something like that. But
Yeah, because we had Ted Nugent on like 3 or 4 weeks ago.
Yeah,
and
when I met
he's
you
a
guys, you
huge-
said like the night before or 2 days before.
yeah. He's a huge advocate of baiting, and he said that the guys that don't bait but use scent during the rut, he said that's bait. And he said
Correct.
if you use deer calls, that's also bait. And he said if you plant food plots underneath your tree stand, that's bait too. So
Or if
he
you're
said
hunting
everyone.
in an apple orchard or you're hunting by an apple tree, I heard him many years ago stand up against that baiting thing, not baiting. He goes, "You're hunting by an oak, that's bait. You're
Yeah.
hunting their natural food sources. It's a bait. It's a form of bait." So I
I'm
mean,
surprised because most trophy hunters like you would come on here and just.
I'm not a trophy
He's
hunter.
not. He's not. He
I'm
specifically
not
said he wasn't.
correct.
He's not a trophy hunter. Look at the room he's sitting in.
Dude, that's what happens when you're good at what you do.
over many years, and I don't even. I mean, I look at your room. You got them. They're just because they're different size.
Where? I don't
Right
see him.
behind you.
You have 2 or
I
3
see
over
1, 2,
there.
3, 4, 5. I see 5. But again, I've been hunting for a long time, and
These
I
are mountain
discontinued.
goats.
I cut what's that?
What did he say?
These are mountain goats.
Yeah. Well,
Jersey
mountain goats are very expensive to hunt.
Yeah.
But no, I always was and always will be a meat hunter. I've actually have gotten some nice deer and some nice bear because my skill level and my education of the outdoors has grown. I was natural as a kid. I can tell you that from what I was telling you before about walking and stalking around the lakes. Even around fishing, the fish would take off. I learned to creep up to a spot when I fished. Don't you guys do that?
Oh yeah.
Especially
Brown
wild.
trout are notorious for just taking off, and a lot of times you're wading in the river. You're in the river already with them. I swear they feel the vibrations from every
Absolutely.
step you take. And if you're not on the other side of like if you're on the other side of some really rough water, Joe, did you ever notice like you can sometimes get away with it? If the water's kind of calmer and you think like let's say you think the brown trout's hiding on the other side of the calm current,
or something.
you sometimes have to get out of the water to walk down to a better spot and kind of make a cast while you're out of the water. Like I feel like they feel the rocks moving. They could be.
I was doing that as a kid for bass fishing. I'd come up to a spot, I'd go up and around, come around the other side of the tree from further, and I'd cast further. I'd be on the ground, I'd be on the land a little further casting, just so I didn't get too close to the water. You know what I'm saying?
Let
Just
me
or,
ask
or,
you this,
or
Ed.
you're squatting on the side trying to cast like this on behind the branch or something.
what about that one where you shoot like an archery? You grab it, it's like an arrow
Yeah,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
shoot.
yeah.
between the bushes. You could just like launch it,
Slingshot it.
slingshot. Is that what they call
Let
it?
me ask you
That's
this:
what I
do you
call it.
think, when it comes to hunting, like in a state like New Jersey, do you think that like people with access to certain private property have an enormous advantage over people that don't when it
Yeah.
comes to getting monster deer?
Yeah, I could tell you now, there's more people shooting big bucks because they live, and I can name towns, if let's say Colts Neck, where people got these 5 acre pieces of property or better, and there's these deer just walking through all these yards, and the 4 yards to the left and 4 yards to the right don't hunt, but this person's on property that they hunt. They're getting big 130s all the time. They're getting big trophy deer all the time. I remember a few years back, there was a woods and water place over here in Wall. A guy came in, he's buying a crossbow. He says, yeah, it's my first year hunting. And I was like, oh, good luck to you. He goes, yeah, I've been seeing some big bucks right out in my backyard. He says, I'm just going to start popping them right out my window. I'm like, what the hell? Right out my backyard, I'm feeding them. And I hear more and more of these people, and I know who some of them are. They're just shooting out of their backyards. They're taking away the whole aspect. Granted, there's 90% or more that maybe, or give or take, that don't, 75% that are actually doing it to where they really put in the work. But there's, of course, a lot of people. Some people have access to, certain lakes, reservoirs. There's reservoirs in our state around here in New Jersey, in Monmouth County, Swimming River Reservoir, where people's yards back up to it. You and I don't have access to it, but these people go out there and they're hooking these monster bass. It's not like open reservoir to the public. These are like owned by New Jersey Water Company. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
I actually had the privilege to hunt there once, not to hunt there, to fish there once. And I caught a crappie that was the biggest crappie I ever caught in my life. And that was after I live lined a little sunny, But, it was a
Wait,
great
you caught a
time.
crappie on a live line sunfish?
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
Little sunny.
How
Little one.
big was it?
Little, the crappie, I didn't measure it, but it was the biggest one I ever caught. Biggest one I
How
ever
big
caught.
was the bait you were using about?
The bait was small. The bait was like not a little bigger than quarter size.
Oh,
You know what I mean?
I thought you're using like a 2-3 inch like bluegill.
No, I was catching 5-pound bass on those.
Let me ask. Let me ask him because we need to learn this anyway. Because we do this, it happens every year to me, Chris, and my brother. We usually end up getting like a couple nice bucks on the cameras.
Yeah.
And then the tree stand goes up, and then it ends up moving 6 times, and we end up not getting the deer anyway.
What's moving 6 times? The stand?
The stand, yeah, because we
That's
just can't figure out exactly where to put it. Like the deer's there all the time.
What happens is we're sitting there, none of the deer that we're seeing on the camera come through, so we figure that we put the tree stand in a way that is interrupting whatever they're doing, so then we want to move it, I guess. That's what he meant.
Yeah, what happens with me, and I've had people say stupid things to me. I have 5 climbers. I don't use the ladder stands, not yet. I might this year get one because my wife's going to get her apprentice license, but I will have a ground blind. I brush myself in naturally, but I use climbers. And what I do is I go to an area and I find deer first. One of the things I was reading up and I've learned is you don't hunt where you want to see deer. You have to hunt where the deer are. And if you know there's a deer spot, a lot of traffic, maybe a bedding area, don't go barging into that. Look, set up around the outside of that. And I do what they call observation hunts. I'll set up, if it's an area that I'm not familiar with or I'm just starting to get familiar with, I'll set up with a reservation that, I'm just going to watch where they're going, and I don't enter until the wind's right. I already suspect I know the direction they're coming from. And you're always going to give up one direction, out of the 4 that you hunt. So I'll set up, and all of a sudden I'll start seeing traffic, deer moving over there. The first time they didn't come by me, it doesn't mean I'll stop and set up. I'll come back to that. If I see them again over there, and I've been doing it since the day I shot that buck, I'll relocate a little bit closer. I'll take a walk over there with my climber on my back. Instead of going to the tree I'm normally in, I'll go over by the tree where I used to see them going in an area I saw them, and I'll pick a tree. And I used to carry a little saw with me. I'll climb up, cut a branch, and I sit. And then I'll get my deer. Sometimes you must go to the deer that way. once obviously deer are in a certain piece of woods that you're hunting, but you must make sure that you're set up with the best background where you're not, there's backdrop. I pull oak branches up and I strap shit. I make trees out of trees, if you know what I'm saying. If there's a bare tree that I think is in a perfect spot, I'll go up that tree, but not alone. I'm hauling up different branches and I'm hooking them up. So now it's all branches behind me or cover me on one side and not the other. So I'm totally camouflaged out like the predator. You have got to set up.
I thought Joe, no joke. I thought about all this. I'm like, dude, we should make like a surround. We should surround ourselves with brand. But I thought it was overkill.
Brush yourself in. You brush yourself in, whether you're on the ground or up in a tree. You've got to have either natural cover, or you got to make cover. And if you guys are going into your spot, we got deer on camera, right? And if you cross that spot to go hunt where they're coming, they're going to scent you. They're going to scent something's different. You want easy in and easy out. You don't want to go in and swirl around a spot and then climb a tree and make believe they're not going to scent that you were there. You don't go
that we were avoiding. That we were avoiding, but we didn't know this particular spot where we were seeing these nice deer, these bucks. There's only one way in, and Joe was convinced that same way in, that was the way they were using, and so that when we were coming, we were kind of screwing them all up.
Certainly could be,
but there was no other way in.
And some cases like that, you'd have to try to make another way in.
There was other ways in, but they were like, it would have been the pinnacle of torture.
I get it. So that's when you got to cut yourself a trail to get in that way instead of come early, like late season now, so that where there's less brush in the way. You don't go in there in the early season and try to cut through the jungle. You cut now. You cut now so that it's pruned. Keep it down. Then you go back in and prune it again when it gets wild on you, and make yourself easy access. So access is one, wind direction's the other. And if you keep moving a stand, you're putting a lot of scent in there. You know you're sweating.
Yeah.
So you got to be easy in, easy out, and you must set up multiple locations. I have multiple spots I hunt, state land and private land I hunt, but I never burn one out. I'll always go based on wind direction to different ones. I put less pressure in all my areas. That's another big factor, huge factor. Less pressure. You got to have multiple spots, and you got to take a compass with you, and you got to take a picture of it, mark the wind down, whatever is the best direction for location A, whether you call it the dog park or this park or, the river, the oak tree, wherever spot you're at, the field. I name my spots, different spots, and you need to know what's the best wind direction. And your deer patterns are going to majorly change. The early season and late season, early season, mid-season, late season. Early season bucks are in a bachelor group, which a lot of people are familiar with. And then when they start, September, their antlers shed out, they start territorial. Then all of a sudden the little ones break off. But also they're also slaves to their stomach. So they're driven by food sources. So the food source that you're seeing them in July, August, and September changes. Now October, you got some oaks going. Now they're going over here. Now they completely left that area and they're across the street living in that area because there's an oak ridge there. Oak trees aren't dropping oaks in the summer, so they're not eating there. They're eating the briars. They're eating the blueberries. You see what I'm saying? The wild berries. They're eating all that, and then all of a sudden they're changing. And the other thing is any pressure. If there's pressure you guys put in, they're going to bounce out. They're going to leave naturally anyway, but they're going to leave quicker if there's any pressure.
Ed, you're teaching me more about hunting in like the last 30 minutes than Joe's taught me in 2 full seasons. Aren't you supposed to know all this already, Joe?
I'm listening.
No, listen, it all comes down to your time, your experience, and that's basically it. Some people, I do hunt a lot. I'm blessed. Up until that 24 years ago, I was raising my kids and I didn't have a woman in my life that could help me watch them. And in that period of time, I had some help. So I had someone who could watch them, pick them up from school and do that stuff. But I typically took off for quite a few years after that as well. And then I got back into it again heavily. But I'm really a time management guy. I've been running a business for 38 years. So I hunt. I set my life up where I don't get crazy with the hunting. I do hunt a lot, but I can only hunt during daylight hours, right? So we hunt 6 months ahead of the year as the season, September through February. So the next 6 months, which we're in right now, is 100% for my wife. My kids are now 34 and 32. I'm a grandfather, but I put myself on 6 days a week sometimes when I manage a business. So I'll have 6 days a week and 1 day off. So I can hunt twice in 1 day, right? My day off, I can hunt in the morning, hunt, afternoon hunt, and I can hunt the other 6 days in the afternoon. So I can get 8 hunts in a week if I permit myself to do so. But remember, I'm also taking care of my property, running a business, paying my bills, going out to dinner with my wife, doing my laundry. So anything I could do at night during darkness hours, laundry, pay bills, clean the house, whatever I got to do, I do. So I save my daylight hours.
Why is he saying all this? You're making us all look terrible.
What?
Whatever.
I don't do any of that. I hope my wife doesn't watch this now.
Your wife ain't gonna watch this show. But Ed, don't ever go night fishing on Lake Obacon because that's all you'll want to do during this time of the year. It's so cool. Have you
really?
ever done?
Yeah.
No.
Great.
I mean, I've done striper fishing. I've done some of that. I did have to forfeit some of my fishing for my hunting. If people say, oh, you do this, you do that, you fish, you turkey hunt. No, because I deer hunted so hard. But now that I've deer hunted so hard and have been pretty successful, and then I've bear hunted since 2016, I've gone on 6, 7 bear hunts and I got 4 bear. You know what I'm saying? But the time I put in before the hunts was 2 months before every hunt. I was setting up for the October hunt in June, July.
I think that's we're kind of like the opposite of you with fishing and hunting, right? So we're devoting so much time to fishing. And I think that's our biggest problem. We don't.
Yeah, we're basically dropping a tree stand in any convenient tree in the middle of November and throwing corn everywhere, and then just shooting stuff.
We're not.
Hey, it works at a certain level, right?
But whatever it takes.
Well, I mean, we're not really willing to give up certain fishing aspects of fishing to hunt, but I think we have to just kind of accept then that, for us to come across a deer like one of these monsters you've shot is going to be a lot of luck has to be on our side because we're not able to we're not willing to put as much preparation time in because we're putting preparation time in to fishing, for example,
Yeah, I get it. Time management. I've become very good at time management. You know what I mean? Based on all the responsibilities I've had to have all my life. Time management, and the skill versus luck. I definitely count on my skill more than luck because luck runs out. So your skill as a fisherman, you guys don't catch all those fish because you're lucky. Your skills there, you put your time in. The same thing happens if you put any of that energy towards your hunting. I read some articles back in the day, and it's true. Scout twice as much as you hunt.
So we don't do that at all.
See, I scout twice as much as I hunt. I understand the area, so I'm not putting all the pressure in there. And I scout new areas.
Right, but Joe, we do that for fishing, though.
We do it for fishing. For hunting, we don't. We just plop a stand on a nice tree and throw corn.
Right. But I don't even have time to do both like that, and you have kids, so you don't.
Are you going to devote a Saturday to walking around the woods to see where the deer are pooping? You ain't doing that. No way. You ain't going to do it.
No, because I'm fishing. I'm already fishing.
Yeah, and it's black. It's like prime time blackfish season is the rut of hunting.
Oh, that's true too. But first of all, it doesn't have to be dedicated. You don't have to dedicate a whole day. Parts of the day. Go in a certain part and then get back out and do something different.
We have to find spots, and I think we know where we can do this, where we can scout the deer and fish at on the same day at the same
on the same trip. Stop here, check this out here, and then go. Fish early if you want. If the bite's on better early, so you fish at lunchtime. You get in the woods when the deer are less active, and then you go back for an afternoon fish. Morning fish.
That's our game plan right there.
That would be the way to do it. Ed, I can't thank you enough for taking the time to come on here with us. I'm hoping that we get to go out fishing with you eventually. I'm hoping you and your friend Rick come back on the podcast.
I've got Rick scheduled for next month already.
I was going to say, I gave you his name and number.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
So
I
Rick's
I
coming on.
talked to Rick already. Rick's gonna come on next month. He's like real passionate about helping people get their kids into fishing and hunting. And
Is there
I
any
mean,
is there anything Ed wants to plug before we let him go? You want to advertise anything while you're on here?
yeah, any like any of your favorite companies or whatnot, whatever. Bait shops, butcher.
Yeah, I mean, I've got a couple great butchers, and I use Matthews and 10 Point. I use my Matthews compound 10 Point. I use my Thompson Pro Hunter now for a muzzleloader. I use my Savage 220 bolt action 20 gauge. The thing is deadly at 150 yards, no doubt, even more, but 150 and under, I'm dropping them. I just have a great time. I just have a great time hunting. I enjoy it thoroughly. I don't hunt with a group of people much. I hunt individually a lot, but I have helped over the years. I've helped multiple individuals get started and be successful. I put them on property I hunt. I've coached them along with the wind directions. I set up stands with them on their property so they're successful. I had one guy, I said, listen, here's how you set up weather bug, read the wind. All right. He started reading the wind. I said, well, then what stand would you use? The one by the chain link fence. Good. Use the stand B. He got a buck. I was trying, teaching people that stuff. I'm just passionate about that and filling freezers. Just trying to keep it right. It's just a passion of mine. I'm not in competition. I really don't like when I see people out there trying to get big trophies and they go by. People are actually crossing the line so much, which it really infuriates me. Where they hunt on property they're not allowed to hunt. Sneaking in on places. That's a whole nother subject. You know what I mean?
Yeah, we get that in fishing too, and yeah, I'm obviously it's this area where some people are disgusted by it, other people don't care, but I mean, trespassing is trespassing. I mean,
Exactly.
I'm not the one doing it, and it's not my property, but the person whose property it is if they care, then guess what? I
Yeah.
mean,
It's a problem. I manage a couple pieces of property. I'm supposed to be keeping people off. I start catching people coming in. You try to talk to them. You can't tell me I've been hunting
yeah,
here before.
I think
The hell?
that's the thing. Is when you got a guy like nice guy like you comes in, tries to talk, and like, look, you can't be here. I'm not gonna give you a hard time, but just so you know, and then they give you a hard time. Start to, come back again,
No.
try it again. That's when it goes over the line, I think.
Yeah, no doubt. I've become friends with a few of the wardens now, and I've got some names, and people just popping in spots they're not supposed to be. It's just like it gets annoying. But you know what? The point is I don't lose focus on my purpose for hunting. I go out there to enjoy myself, to fill the freezer, and to do my part of conservation. Especially in New Jersey, there's too many deer.
Oh yeah.
Some people are just really hung up on trying to get these racks that they actually cross the line. They're obsessed. We both all three of us know about how obsessive we get with fishing, hunting, bar hopping when that was our thing, whatever the case may be. People just need to really just back off a little bit and put it in perspective. But other than that, it's great. We came back from North Carolina and went to visit the kids, did some fishing up there or down there, and we stopped at a few different hunting shops and stuff, and I picked up some ammo or this and that. It's just nice. It's just such an American thing to be out there with everybody. It's huge out there, and that's why I bring my deer to different shows. I just brought a deer to a show down at some church, and it was a really big show. Did you guys see that? I'll send you some pictures of that.
Is it the one you sent us? I don't remember the name.
I can't remember the name. I apologize. I can't remember it either. But
Is
it
it
was
in
really
Pennsylvania?
no. It was down South Jersey off the Black Horse Park Turnpike or something like that. It was really nice in a big church. Nelson Roque and Jimmy Fully Love set it up, and it was like almost like a deer classic, but it wasn't run by the state. It was actually really organized. It was an amazing setup of deer. But they asked me if I would bring my deer. My point is I bring my deer to certain events and venues because the people want to see it. You know what I mean? I'm not running around like I want to boast. I actually told Nelson to stop posting my picture on Jersey Big Bucks a few years ago because I'm tired of seeing it. You're blowing it up, man. I don't even want to look at your page anymore. There's many other people seeing deer. You know what I'm saying? And but his page is really morphed. I sent you some pictures of that. He's got some really good stuff out there.
It's just like fish. I mean, people, it like I want to see big fish. I want to see someone caught a big fish in New Jersey. Even if I don't know where it's from, even if it's from a private lake and they want to pretend it's from a public lake, whatever. I
Correct.
like seeing big fish caught in New Jersey. It gets me like jacked up. It gets me like to know that like there's these big fish out there and that they release the big fish or whatever. And so same as you said, like I don't post a big fish picture to like say, "Hey, look at me, I'm awesome." I
To be
don't.
a braggart. No.
I'm posting it because I like to look at other people's stuff, so I want to contribute to that same, you know.
Passion. That same
Yeah.
passion, right? There's a passion out there for hunting and fishing, and I love it. People post a bunch of pictures of their dogs, their cats, whatever their collections, their pets, whatever they do. I hunt. I work hard, but I don't have to post pictures of that. Nobody wants to see that.
I'm not posting pictures of myself at work.
Well,
But I mean, the beautiful, the wonderful things in life you want to share with people, and if people really enjoy it, then have at it. I love it. I love it, and I like helping people. I was at that show, and we were asking questions about why don't they have people. They said that there was I think it was 35% of the people that get their hunting license actually hunt the first year, and less than that hunt the second year. And the biggest complaint that people have is the reasons why they didn't hunt. They got their license. They did the safety course and all that. They didn't know what to do. They had no place to hunt. They didn't know where to go. They didn't know how to set up. They didn't know what to do if they shot a deer. And I said, which I knew the state would say, I said, why can't you put a list of people out there that are willing to counsel people on that? What they call it, I forget the name they call it, but UBNJ does that. They help people out. I'd be willing to do it. A mother and daughter, a mother, father, or just one guy or one girl, whoever wants to hunt, even if it's their own property, I'll show them how to set it up. And like I've done with my handicapped friends and a new beginner hunter friend and another guy that couldn't hunt that well that wanted to hunt, it's your piece. You set it up. You go hunt. If you shoot something, I'll come help you track it. I'll help you field dress it, and I'll help you get it to the butcher and call it all in. I still do that to this day. There's not enough of that. There's an attrition rate, and that's what Rick's going to talk about too, where people are just dropping off. That's why he's getting the kids into it.
Yeah, and I mean, like, look, I'm a good example too. I always thought about hunting. I didn't really know how to get into it, and I bust Joe's balls all the time. But I gotta give it to Joe. Like without Joe saying, "Hey, dude, why don't you pick up one of these apprentice licenses and give it a try? You don't want to hunt?" I'm like, "No, I wanted to hunt. I didn't even know the apprentice license. I didn't even know it existed."
Exactly.
Well, it was new. The apprentice license.
I think it's only about 4 years old, isn't it? Something
Yeah,
like
I
that.
mean anything.
I didn't realize it was that new, honestly.
It
Yeah,
would
it's
be
quite
a
new.
great pain in the ass to take anyone hunting, but now the apprentice license, you could actually take someone hunting, let them try it first.
That's the whole concept for 2 years. Instead of making someone register, sign up, take a test, show up for the class, qualify, then go hunt. They cut that middle piece out and they say, hey, we're going to get you to let somebody out there, which is awesome. I also want to give a plug to a buddy of mine, Mark Kroniak. He's the one that got me into bear hunting. I've always been asked, you hunt bear, you hunt bear? I said, nah, not unless they're in my area. I'm not going to go up north. I spend 2 hours each way and like an hour or two in the woods to go hunt bear. So I got to go all the way up to like Sussex County up there. But Mark had asked me back in 2016 if I was interested in hunting bear. He'd help him set up some spots. He'd teach me what he knows. We went from like June all the way through October, once a week, setting up 5 different bear baits when you could bait them. Then you had to pull the bear bait out and you can hunt them, right? So I did that with him on my first bear hunt walking in. I stalked up on a bear when I saw it and I shot it. It was a bear, I believe, are easier than deer, But Mark, He took me out and showed me how to hunt bear. My hunting skills kicked in, obviously, but knowledge of the bears and how they behave. And I did find that bear are not as afraid of human beings as anything else I've ever met, because deer take off. Bear will take off, but they also will wait and hang out and try to bluff you out of the area. They'll push you out. They won't leave. They'll come in if you're there. Yeah, if you're there, they'll come in. So they're easier to get.
Huh, well.
Like I said, hopefully we'll have you guys back on when we have more time. But really, thank you for taking the time to come on here. We really do appreciate it. And like I said, hopefully we get to do some stuff together.
And
thanks for the invite.
And I hope that people watching this that maybe only fish and have thought about hunting, I hope they take this into consideration. I mean, hell, drop us a message. Maybe we can help you, or we can send you
Yeah.
Ed's email if that's all right with you, or Ed will see the message. I mean, people are willing to help you. I think that's the bottom line.
Correct.
People are scared to ask for help or whatever. Not scared, but maybe embarrassed or
Afraid of rejection. Don't want to impose on people.
No, we're straight up saying, like, we do episodes like this because I hope people will watch this and say, oh, maybe I should try hunting. Let me send these guys a message. Let me see if someone's willing to, point me in the right direction, get me started. And we do the same thing for fishing. I mean, it's a network, it's a community. It's,
there's mothers and fathers out there with children, single mothers and fathers out there with children that want to hunt. They don't know, or fish, and they don't know anybody that can teach them. Just because a parent doesn't do it, there's no real network, to connect people with that. I've talked about that for years. I did it with the Boy Scouts. I was an assistant scoutmaster. I'd gotten 3 boys their licenses, my son, my nephew, and another kid in the Boy Scouts outside of the organization. I took them through the classes and got them their license back in the day. I'm in Monmouth County. If somebody's in Monmouth County and they want to make a connection, I can't handle taking 5 different people out or setting them up. I can set them up on state land. If they have property they're allowed to hunt on, I'll look at it. I'll show them how to find out if it's legal with my ex, on X Hunt and all the little rules and regulations, and I'll tell them how to set up. I'll help them. And if they harvest something, I'll be right there to help them out, So I'm still open for all that,
Yeah,
the reason, and thanks for inviting me on here, because the reason I accepted it and thought it was a great idea and was willing to do it is really because of that. I mean, I know the message that you just put out there. It's the same message I like to put out there. Those that are looking to get into fishing or hunting, they need that. They need that little outlet. They need that ability, that connection to talk to somebody and say, hey, I can help you out. What are you looking for? This weekend, I just bought my grandchildren last weekend fishing poles. I bought 3 poles and gave my daughter my fishing pole that I gave her years ago that I got from my 8th grade graduation, because I still have it. The first Shakespeare Ugly Stick, and I bought a second reel for it, a little Daiwa. She has it now.
Awesome. Yeah, and you said they need us to help them, and we need them to keep coming into the sports of hunting and fishing.
To help keep it alive, to help keep it right, vote for it, appreciate it. And that's why I really love giving venison to the non-hunting public. The reason my wife is going to hunt with me this year is because her girlfriend at work, a woman at work, is into all this natural stuff. And she told my wife told her I hunt and eat venison. Oh my God, I'd love to try venison. Do you hunt? She's like, no. She's like, you ought to. What if something happens in our country too? You should get your own food. And my wife turned to me because of her girlfriend and says, would you take me hunting? I'm like, whoa, yeah, absolutely. You know what I mean? But there's so many people out there that would do it if they had an opportunity, even to try it. And it's guys like us that need to extend that hand.
Yeah, take that leap. Anyone listening, take that leap. It's worth it.
No doubt.
I couldn't believe how much I enjoyed hunting. I mean, I'm still gonna fish more than hunt, but I mean, sure. It's just great.
Yeah, it's nice to be able to change channels. You can do this. You can hunt. You can fish. You can sail a kite. Whatever you have. Your hobbies are great, and I like the reward of being in nature. Everybody talks about how wonderful nature is. Hunting is a huge part of nature. Hunting and fishing. Get out there.
Yeah.
Get out there. So,
all right, Ed. Thank you so much, man.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate it. Anything else you want me to connect with you on, you know how to reach me. Just let me know, and let me know. Hopefully, Rick, you guys will connect. When are you connecting with Rick?
Rick is coming on next month. Let me take a look real quick. Rick is going to come on. We got Rick scheduled for May 13th.
Nice. Solid person. You'll appreciate it.
You guys were great. I'm glad we met you. I'm glad those were the only seats left open in the whole place, and it worked out. We'll be in touch, and hopefully down the road we could do some fishing or something together.
Yeah, absolutely. Awesome. What county are you guys in? What county?
I'm up in Lebanon by Round Valley. Joe's all the way up in New York City somewhere.
Okay. I'm in Bergen County.
Bergen County. Oh yeah, you're talking
New York City's asshole is where he lives.
Yes. Okay. Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Yeah, that's it. Signing off. Suffer for the.
So, all right, Chris is going to North Carolina. I will be back next week with a different co-host, Kevin Glenn. That's all I have.
You guys have FC Bait Company coming on to talk about that interesting bait.
Yeah.
Matt Kisser with FC.
I need some of that stuff
Bait
too.
Company.
All right, whatever. I'm going to bed. I will be back. We'll be back next week. Me and Kevin, Chris won't be back. No one really.
I will
anyway.
hopefully. I've already had one trip canceled on me. One TOG trip that I was looking forward to, like you said before.
Why? What trip is next week?
What do you mean? I'm going to North Carolina.
To do
We
what?
had the first trip I had scheduled for the season was the TOG trip with Adam Baum that you were on as well.
Yes.
That got canceled. I hate when trips get canceled that they just mind fuck me. I mean, this trip is North Carolina blackfin tuna jigging and amberjack jigging trip. I've done it a couple times. Learners coming up from Florida meeting us there. Nick's coming with us. Me, Katie's brother-in-law, Kyle. We're all going down. It's an offshore trip and it's April, so it could get blown out. I'm 0 for 1 this season, so we'll see. And then we've got well, you're not coming on the end of April Adam Baum TOG trip.
No.
Oh, that's my round 2. We're gonna try again end of April.
I can't go.
Huh?
I can't go that day.
Why?
I think it's my daughter's communion.
That sounds like a lame excuse.
All right, we'll be back next week.
Take care and keep suffering for those fish. I already said that. I did it twice.